And that was like this boom, aha moment of like, oh my God, myself and billions of other people are experts at negative self-talk. How we've created such a like connected looping pattern. And that was like, okay, if I want the opposite, then I need to collect 10,000 hours in self-love. And that was like this boom moment of like commitment.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Patrick Cook. Welcome to Being. Being is a place where we gather to explore some of life's most difficult questions. What does it mean to lead a meaningful life? What does it mean to live a life of purpose or on purpose? How do we make sense of the world? Really, what we're asking is, what the hell is going on? My intention with this podcast is to explore what it means to be human in the modern world through the lens of creativity, consciousness, and personal development. Through authentic conversations with a wide array of guests, including artists, intellectuals, scientists, visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders, Being ventures to make collective sense of an increasingly complex world with the unifying goal of building a sustainable future for all. As humanity continues to march full steam towards extinction, we can no longer afford to simply ask, what is best for me? The question now must become, what is best for me and the whole simultaneously? And so, dear audience, I want to inspire you to take full responsibility, to find your purpose, and to engage your evolution as a conscious agent. I challenge you to live your being. If you're enjoying the content, please do subscribe to the show and get a new episode delivered directly to your device every Friday. And as always, I love hearing from you. So please do rate and review the episode on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or whichever platform you prefer. And hey, I might even read your review on a future episode. Here's another 5-star review from Gandalf. Patrick brings to all the ability to express that which is within us all, but hidden from many. His wisdom resonates with all of humanity. For show notes and more information, head on over to being-podcast.com. Now, on with the show. My guest today is a force to be reckoned with. She is a multi-talented, multi-dimensional facilitator in numerous realms, including reiki, yoga, tantric arts, and orgasmic breathwork. Currently, she is dedicating her time to Pussy Church, a collective of women sharing devotional pussy practices highlighting the importance of pussy connection and relation to the evolving world. This episode is guaranteed to push your buttons and take you to the outer limits of your comfort zone. So hang on to your underwear and please welcome Natrishka. Natrishka! Welcome. What's going on, girlfriend?
Oh, everything is going on. We are going on, we're moving on, and yeah.
We are so going on and moving on. So Natrishka and I have had the shared experience of living in the same community for a number of years, which has been awesome. I've been able to witness you in your magnificence, your beauty, your embodiment, your growth, your wisdom, your leadership, and it's just been absolutely amazing to witness. You are a force to be reckoned with. But for people who don't know who you are, let's just start right at the beginning. Who is Natrishka? What lights you up?
Okay, well, it's interesting because when you're talking, I'm thinking about, wow, all the different angles that you get to witness me in as a mother, as a surfer, as a person working in energetics, Reiki, as a singer, creative, and as an entrepreneur in our connection through Conscious Erotica and that project. But who am I? I teach restorative yoga. I love restorative yoga, and I am a surfer, a capoeirista. I also have been participating in Reiki practice for myself and massage therapy for many, many years, and that's going through a shift and a growth that I'm really excited about. And sacred sexuality meaning honoring the what recreating what sex is for our future, for positive sex culture, sex language. I am a mother and I am a woman, and the healing of my past and my experience in sexuality brought me to sharing and also holding space for the next generation and wanting to be the change we wish to see in the world in the space of sex. And so I would call it, I like to address the full spectrum of my being. I'm very physical with the capoeira. I'm very artistic. I like to take care of my mind, my body, my spirit. And I like to be raw, real, and honor where I've come from too, which was the school of hard knocks. And I don't shine that away. And I feel like yesterday was the day of Scorpio, entering Scorpio. And I'm like, just so full of this venom of wanting to that's where I sit right now, is how I'm so in my astrology. Who am I astrologically? Natrishka is a Sagittarius sun and a Scorpio moon. So here we are entering Scorpio, but then Sagittarius is on the other side. So it's a potent time for me, and I'm sitting on my edge. And a lot of the things that I have done in the erotic realm is guiding people to experience their erotic edge. So that is where I'm sitting on my edge.
So powerful. Yes. Amazing. There's so many layers, and you are so multifaceted and multi-talented. And yeah, like one of the things I've learned from you is to be okay and have the courage to explore edges, to move towards the edge of your comfort zone, and to be okay with going past it and seeing what happens. And that's been a huge growth factor for me. And I had the pleasure of, like you mentioned earlier, recording and helping you to produce your audiobook called The Jungle Edition. Which is, you describe as conscious erotica, and it's sharing your work around sexual taboo, desire, and fantasy.
Yes.
And so that was such a rewarding project for me, just to witness you in that space. You're so willing to be raw and vulnerable and authentic, and that was just so inspiring. Can you tell me, how was that project? What is that project, and how was the experience of putting it to tape for you?
I have to say it was a highlight of my life, like in my career space, because it came from just, when you zoom out, you see how it's always been there, and how that connective thread has always been. So what has the journey of that been for me? Well, we created. Okay, so here it goes. So I'm 38. I'm turning 39 November 26th. And I remember I would draw erotica. I would draw erotic art, and I would be into Lowrider magazine. And I forget this artist, but it was the Heavy Metal magazine. And it was just like, anime. And I had like anime porn. And like, it was always like this artistic erotica. And Helmut Newton is a German photographer, and I've always loved this edge. And so that was a continuation of literature, art, and real life exploring in the sexual realm that has been a connective thread. And then I started writing erotica, and then I put it out and shared it with people. Then it just kept on building, and I was like, pornography has done harm to sexual education and how we've grown up. And a lot of my healing came with the message of the need, my desire for sexual education, like the need to speak and discuss what was going on in adolescence, and being, it's my body. It's such a deep part of me, like having that conversation of depth at that time. I think we are ready. And then from there,
were you supported in adolescence, like from an educational perspective?
No, I was not.
I
And
don't think any of us were of our
no,
generation. What's up with that?
it's pornography, and that's what I'm getting at. It's like the pornography was the education. So then when I had
Yeah.
those questions, I had no one. I had to go. I was so curious. I had to go and explore what what is this all, and that brought me to places and situations that weren't amazing or were amazing. And so when I was writing, I was like, I want to weave in education. How can I make this an irresistible transformation that it's like juicy, like
Mm.
sticky, right? Seth Godin says, make it sticky. And it just made me feel good. It just made me
Yes.
feel good. And it's been a couple of years now. Not a lot of people have read it. I think like 400 or 500 people have listened to it. Maybe 100 people have bought the audiobook. But when I received that $11.25 in Bandcamp, it's like so fulfilling to me. Or when people are like, oh my God, like just that little tidbit makes me feel so good. And last year I started my research into the next edition, and it's
Awesome.
been just simmering, and really it's like my beans on the stove right now. I had to turn it off because I'm doing this right now. I'm like, I had to turn the beans off because I don't want to. So my frijoles are just chilling in some hot water. So that's where I am, and it was such an amazing experience, and I loved it because it really challenged me, and thank you for your support on that. And then like the grand finale for me was the launch party, and that's where it was like my highlight of my of creativity, because it was I felt like the universe just pushed me there and guided me there, and it was just like effortlessly flowing, and I felt like I wasn't even there. Like I was, it was like how I felt when I gave birth, like just split in half and the divine just opened. I was like, boom, there. But that started, that was like the dende, the flavor that was like, no, this is your edge. You need to play here. Mm-hmm.
Why is it important to play at your edge and explore your edge?
So we're not in the box, so we can break through from that box. It's just like, as I used to be a personal trainer, right? And if we're always in our comfort zone, we're only going to keep our muscle mass at a certain level. And, maybe even our muscles aren't going to react in that way. And it's the agility, it's the ability to have different perspectives and to, honor different diverse thinking and experiences. So that edge isn't just, oh, I'm being risque and risky and bold just for me, but it's to honor that someone totally doesn't like that, or they want to take it to another complete other opposite edge. I remember at that launch party holding that space for people. It was like everybody was just like ready, like yes, take me there. And it can be scary. And I felt like after that event, so many people were like, I want more. I felt that edge. I felt that little soreness in my muscle that was like, oh yeah, I need to like get that pump on a little bit. So I feel like
Totally.
it's and people that, especially here in Osara with all this yoga and empowerment and expansion, people visit their work life, their body, their nutrition, but then they don't understand, well, what's happening to they're shifting other parts in their life, and yes, it's going to affect their sex life and their relationship. So if you don't address that full circle of your being on your journey of enlightenment, expansion, getting to know yourself. And it's not just hallelujah, hallelujah in the light, it's the other side too. The dark side.
Totally. So why do you think there's so much still in this day and age, so much taboo about sexuality, and more specifically female empowerment around sexuality? Like what are the boundaries you run into with your clients or the people you work with, that what's holding them back?
It's it comes down to this key of education and systemic oppression of, I'm reading.
Patriarchy.
Yes, and it's so interesting because I'm reading this book here, The Chalice and the Blade. Daniel Brett
Ooh.
actually told me to read this, and he sent me a PDF.
Yeah.
But then it's hard for me to read on the computer. But I'm so glad I got this. And it's saying I'm just at the very start of it, that it wasn't just, if it wasn't patriarchy, it was matriarchy. It wasn't just black or white. There was a moment of integration and harmony, and it was radical honesty. Radical honesty was the sweet spot of both sides being able to be in harmony. And so that's one side of like this ancient text of the masculine and feminine that I've been exploring. And then the other side is our central nervous system, of how we're reacting in the body, and the womb and the sacral chakra and the sacrum, how it's connected to the brain. And I just feel like, okay, if we were honored as mother of giving life, of fullness, of creation, and we had this power, I don't know the big bang of how it all shifted, but I feel like it's an oppression of this power, oppression of this ability to create life, to hold space. I'm definitely a student in this whole entire realm, but it's like, sometimes, like, for me, it's not black and white. Like, I'm still like piecing together all of these little stories. And one thing that this woman talks about, it's like the people that were doing the research, the people that were digging and trying to, it's just like the anatomy textbooks. They were all men, and they just failed to include the truths about ritual and the feminine and masculine together, even about the clitoral network and the full space of the reproductive system. All sorts of different things were just not included because it was the eye of the masculine that was, holding that space. But to come back to your question of why I feel like, and then I said, oppression, it's shame, it's guilt, it's lack of education, and the honoring of pleasure, because it's just been held as a tool of making babies, and also ownership, and I'm going to be this is going to be raw and uncut. I'm going to take it to my edge. So a week ago today, actually, I was with a lover, and we were having an amazing time. We were just like, it was so delicious. It was so delicious. And we were just continuing on and on and on. And I was like incredibly wet and juicy and using all my exercises and blah, blah, blah. And in that moment, in his thrusting, he got me right in the booty. And I fucking screamed and like cried, and like it was so intense for me. Like, it was like something I've never felt before. And what struck me, like, in that pain and like feeling of my root, it just like trauma hit of all the women's stories that I've ever heard, all of the things of, males and boys, like, just to be, not ready and not, the consent, I know it was an accident, but like consensual, like it just brought me back to how other bodies have felt in a non-consensual way.
Wow,
and
that's powerful.
Yeah, and it like hit me like intensely, and so my journey of the sacred sexuality also honors deeply, like, it comes back to my why of, wanting, how do we support the change to release and, to eradicate this kind, okay, so coming back again to, okay, reproductive pleasure and then pain and trauma, and if shame and guilt and reproductive, the abstinence only education, fear-based education has never gave space to how can you feel pleasure in your life? What are the things that make you feel safe to open, right? Because, people do enjoy anal sex and when they have safe space to open, but here I am in a moment that it wasn't, and that shock upon the body. And how I said before of the central nervous system, the more that I connect with women and women in trauma, it's no wonder the womb space and the mind and the brain, it's that loop. I have never been able to feel or even visualize or imagine pleasure or what that can look like or explore it within my body because of all of that, the mental blocks and the physical felt sensation. So it's deep. There's so many portals, just like pussy, just like orgasm, just like creativity, just like, all the spaces of the brain. It's so expansive, so big.
I want to ask you just about that experience, if you wouldn't mind just going a little bit deeper. When you're in that space of having this beautiful, conscious, erotic experience, and you are triggered either by something physical that happened or something emotional is stirred up, within that sort of container, how did you deal with it? Because obviously you probably got emotional, and then how the partner responds and how it's resolved is so important, rather than it being shamed or just glossed over or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's such a great question because I had choices in that moment.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
A big fuck you.
Yeah.
A big, okay,
Angry.
let's end it like right now.
Yeah.
And then like, maybe it's quiet, awkward.
Yeah.
Or ignore my sensation, continue on. Right? But my request at that moment was to lay on top of me and ground me because the sensations were so intense. And I just like squeezed them and like let the energy, the weight just like push me down. Like I had to like squeeze everything. And like I let out some tears and I just was breathing through it. And I knew it wasn't my experience, like that it wasn't triggering anything for me in that space that I had to like work through. But it was like something noted that was like, whoa, don't forget this. Like it was a whoa, don't forget this sensation and like what happened here. And then from there we were breathing. We had like a moment. I'm like trying to like think back. This is not a new partner, but fairly new in like getting into deeper communication. So we didn't have like deep discussion upon it, but there was a subtle gentleness in that moment, but there was still fire and desire and like we weren't finished yet in our play. And so we had like a moment and then we continued on and it was really lovely. And it's interesting because the research that I've been doing, I can't say exactly what spot in the brain, but just that pleasure pain connection, that there is a connection and there is again that edge. And then going into that it's triggering different it's triggering actually similar parts of the brain. So even the nipples, the clitoris, and the vulva, when they are signaling similar parts of the brain. So there's that edge of pleasure pain, just like spanking.
Mm.
right?
Yep.
That Yeah, so it wasn't that I had to like reframe it in my mind, like, okay, I'm going to turn this pain into pleasure. But within that journey, there was those sensations of pain, awareness of like, whoa, this made me think of the bigger scope of the world and the physical pain, like how, what it was for me, it was like sealing even deeper the pussy brain root connection and how that trauma is placed and like that it was just making it even more real, I guess.
Mm.
Like so many people, I guess making me feel more, even though I am empathetic, it just made me feel like literally
Yeah.
how a person, a young girl, boy, woman,
Yeah.
just felt like it opened my heart a little bit more
Yeah.
to that.
Do you feel like, because you mentioned you felt like a wave of trauma, do you think you were tapping into sort of like a collective pain body and the
Yeah.
collective consciousness?
Yeah, I feel that
Wow.
over this last 7 months, because being in here in Nosara, it's actually been beautiful for me. And I had moments of feeling guilt, of feeling really good in my body, feeling
Mm.
able to be in space and rest and do restorative yoga and meditate. I had that privilege to be in nature, to be working in my garden. And, with a lot of sex trafficking, um, news coming back
Mm.
in, because I'm not, I don't have a blind eye to that. I've been definitely in that space in the
Mm.
past before. Um, and even with Black Lives Matter, conspiracy theory, all of these things, I feel like I have been extra sensitive and crying and in not even like it's me, it's a collective experiential expression of emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mirror what you're saying about, witnessing how much suffering there's going on in the world, especially in the last 7 months, and um, how disconnected people feel, how alone, how uncertain, how angry, how frustrated, and then feeling deep gratitude for what I do have in my life, and the beautiful beauty I have around me, and the opportunity and the love. Um, but like you said, being aware of what's going on, but not feeding it. Does that make sense? Like energetically, because I think especially us, people like us who feel deeply, are deeply empathetic. We want to bear witness. We want to make a change. We want to make it better. And so, focusing on the problem, and trying to come up with a solution almost is counterintuitive, where we're just feeding the negative energy. It's where, okay, well, I can't directly affect what's going on with sex trafficking or politics or COVID or whatever it is, but how can I use my power in a positive way that's impactful for the world? This is a question I've been asking myself a lot lately. And the answer keeps coming back is, okay, well, what can I control? I can control me. I can control my thoughts, my emotions, my actions, and how I show up in the world with other people and myself. And so that's what I keep coming back to, is like, okay, being embodied in myself, practicing gratitude, being aware, personal development, growth, exploring my edges, exploring my shadows. This is how we can contribute positively to the world in a collective way, because the more of us that do this work, the more we can impact the collective consciousness in a positive way. And I know that kind of sounds woo woo, but for me, like, everything is energy. This is scientific. And so the more, what we have to be cognizant of, what energy we're contributing to the collective.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense? Do you resonate with that?
So yes, definitely. And when
Mm.
when I'm like, oh, I'm at my edge, and I put a post on Instagram yesterday about the Scorpio moon, I'm like, I'm at my edge. I want to speak to you about that, because it's all about this. What is that
Mm.
edge for me? It's that edge for me is that line of separation that I'm feeling, of
Mm.
um, poverty, of people without, of of abundance, of people with privilege
Mm.
and wealth. And at that time, you know, when things started to happen with riots and everything, I really had a lot of emotion and trigger within me, within this community, because I am not incredibly wealthy and I'm not incredibly poor. I feel like I'm in this safe space of being held and receiving. And I'm really seeing both sides. And I'm very intensely triggered by this every day, and even just the quality of living in someone's house. But who am I? This is my edge in my fight. Who am I to say, oh, your house needs to look like this, or it needs to be like this? Like, I have to stop myself. I want to go in your house and feng shui your house and paint your walls and lift up the spirit of this home so that you have, support your awesomeness. And how people in the spiritual world are like, oh, your surroundings and your environment and your crystal, you smudge the area, like, your environment, clear house, clear mind, right? And so
totally.
if we are having the ability to change and shift those things. So I'm born in Durban, South Africa. My mom and father were, kids living in apartheid. And I remember my mom telling me this story that she would go to the ghetto or the shanty town in Johannesburg or wherever. And she remembered going to this, the tin, everything you can find, just build your little hut. But this house was immaculate. It was incredibly clean. And even when my mom came for dinner, the tablecloth was newspaper with the edges cut out and little designs. And even on the shelves, there was this care and awareness, just like mindful sex or a tea ceremony or meditation, whatever. It has that care. And same here, I feel in Nosara, there's different mentalities of upkeeping and keeping your house for people with money and people without money. How they keep their front yards and so forth. And I'm finding it challenging for me to go forward in how do I now step in the world and create wealth and income for me, and I cannot go back to the way it was. Like everything within myself is like, no. So I have been a Reiki massage therapist for 12 years. I've been in Nosara for 7 years. I've been massaging incredibly wealthy people for 5 strong years, strong, like pop, 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 pop. And I'm done. I quit. September 1st. Thank you. September 1st, I had a wrist injury for 3 months. And I was like, oh, when I'm getting better, I'll massage again. But everything in my body was like, no. And at the same time, I know how powerful my medicine is. And I love it. And that's what I was like stuck on. Like, but it's so needed. Oh, but it is making change. I said to myself, I'm done, and I can do a handstand now. My wrist is feeling good. I had to honor. I said to myself, okay, just put it in a parking space for a year. Doesn't mean that you quit forever. You're giving yourself a break. And then it came to me that because I believe in it so much, the power of human touch and Reiki, divine, universal, whatever, the essence of nature, holding space and bringing that flow state in, or helping people in that flow state, I'm like, I want to teach people this. So on one of your Facebook posts, you're like, what are you creating right now? And I'm like, I'm creating a Reiki massage, Reiki directed massage sequencing so that you can take this training. And I want it to be for women to make income, so I want
awesome.
I want to be like, okay, that's where I'm shifting. That's where I'm like, I'm finding my like edge in the world is like, like I can't just ignore it. Like there's something there. There's like, I don't know how to explain it. Can you speak on that?
Yeah. And well, I think what you're describing is just cultivating the self-awareness and the somatic awareness, listening to your body. Because that's something I was definitely not taught. I'm still just discovering how to listen to my body. And then with the combination of mindfulness, really paying attention to what's going on. What are the quality of your thoughts and your emotions and or sensations in your body, pain in your body, and listen to why they're there, because they're messages. And typically we just, it's pain, it's inconvenient, take an Advil and get on with your day, and whatever's going on. So honoring is like, okay, I do have pain, or I do have this emotion, or I do have this recurring thought. What is it? Where does it come from? And how can I listen to the message and learn from it and pivot in my life? And that takes, it takes awareness, it takes mindfulness, but it also takes courage. So I honor you for listening to your body and shifting and being an example that that's possible, and it's okay to change and move away from things that have worked for you in the past. Because again, that's your comfort zone that you can get stuck in. It's like if you don't listen to your body, you get stuck in that same place. So awesome. I want to come back and ask you about feminine and masculine energy and the interplay between them. And I am definitely not a scholar of these, but I'm fascinated by it. And I think it's a really important topic that needs to be explored for the healing of the entire planet. And I think there's a difference between feminine, divine feminine embodiment and feminism. And I just want to sort of ask you about that. So I'll just give you my sort of 2 cents about it. Feminism for me, and again, I'm not a scholar, but this is how I understand it. It arose as a response to the oppression of patriarchy. So it's like, okay, women have been suppressed for so long that it's like, fuck it. Like, we need to rise up and take the power back, and all the power to you. I totally agree. But what's happened is we've created women who want to behave like men.
Yeah.
And I often use Hillary Clinton as an example. It's like, okay, she's an empowered woman, but she's behaving like a man. She's feeding the patriarchy rather than embodying the female power in its beautiful, expansive, creative, nurturing energy as the balance to the masculine. And so that's kind of how I view it. And so feminism has sort of gotten a bad rap because it's helping to perpetuate the patriarchy rather than to balance it out, which is what we really need. Does that resonate for you?
Yes.
How do you feel?
Well, it connects with what we were just talking about touch and massage. So I've been working at an incredibly high-end boutique hotel, working with a lot of women. And there are a lot of corporate, a lot of business entrepreneurial women that are like successful, driven. They want it all kind of women. They have it all. And then when they lie down on the table, what comes up is the solar plexus, is the masculine, is the driving, the willpower. And they're burnt out. They're not feeling, they're not connecting. And they're like, what is this feminine? It's not the external of flowy dresses and, this, that type of external feminine expression. And I'm going to pause it there and just have that image of the successful CEO on the table in tears with her solar plexus exhausted, her heart center closed, and her pussy dry. That's that one image, right? And then here is Pussy Church, that I've been a part of this collective of women of all images, ages, ethnicities, and how they see themselves in the world, bi, cisgender, everything. I'm so like, it just doesn't roll off my tongue easily. Like, I'm still educating myself of all of these new pronouns and the way to express your sexuality and gender. So we're in our Monday meetings, and we're having a discussion. It's all women with all different, ways in which they want to work in this space. And we have this mystery mass coming up, and it was supposed to be on this day, and it was supposed to be like this, and da-da-da-da-da. But as a union, we're like, no, everything else has been so structured. Can we have some flow in this? So we spoke to, it's not like she's the leader. She is the leader, but she's, we're working together as a collective. She's holding space. She's the conscious leader. And we just went to her and we're like, no, we need more flow. We have specific spaces that are locked in and we have structure, but some things need to flow. And then she said, okay, yes. And then she went, thank fucking God. So that is how we are using the feminine instead of like, no, okay, let's charge. We do it. No, we have to hold the structure. Da, da, da. We're like, no, okay. And we also chart our cycle. So on our schedule, we put where we have our period, when we're bleeding, and we're out. We honor that. And when are we in with our brainstorming and thoughts or creative, artistic posts or whatever? So we are honoring that flow, and that's not being a feminist. That is honoring the feminine.
Totally.
And that, yeah. So that is the difference for me, because I know it can be extreme. It's like a topic that I'm not very well educated about, but I can see the full spectrum of like feminists that are also using that same masculine power in a way that's not transformative justice. And it's the way that I have spoken to many lovers over the last couple of years of changing my way I express. Not that I'm condescending and I'm like, let me teach you everything, but it's no, like I would say, wow, your communication is turning me on. Or like the way that you said that made me feel so safe that I am guiding in a way that isn't, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like
you're not preaching, you're leading by example.
Yeah, and I'm not hurting the masculine. And I feel like sometimes when people are judging or seeing, oh, like they have this, the perspective of, oh, feminists are, you know, braless, hairy armpits, bull dykes, like being mean to the men, you know, and then it could be like the submissive feminine, oh, you can just do anything, you know, everything comes back to the middle path for me, you know. In all spectrums of my being, the middle path is the holy grail.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to go back to, you mentioned working with the woman, the CEO on the table, who's got the burnt out solar plexus, the closed heart, and the dry pussy. How do you, what process do you take her through in order to become more embodied in her feminine?
Well, I'm like, okay, I'm visualizing, I'm a very visual person. So I'm like visualizing her on this table and her solar plexus is, you know, shining this light. And most of the time it's like, it's in overdrive. It's like hot, right? And it's like, I need to bring this energy down. And so this is where it comes in, the masculine of, oh, he has his head in his pants, his, you know, he's thinking with his other brain. Majority of women need to think in that space, not just in the realm of business, but also in feeling, also in having orgasm. So it's reconnecting, resensitizing ourselves to the root sacral chakra, if you believe in the energetic systems, or you can just say to your yoni, to your pum pum, to your source, to her. And it's like coming back again to what I said about the central nervous system and the brain and the yoni connection. It's so deep, so real. So it's the vagus nerve that gets, you know, triggered in parasympathetic nervous system rest and digest, and the vagus nerve goes to all of our internal organs and also all the way down into the pelvic floor. So we have all of these nerve endings coming into the space. So it's like, how do I reconnect to her? I use the brain, I use my eyes, I use all my senses, and I also use patterning, like, you know, neuroplasticity of the mind. So then I was telling you about my journey of self-love, of the book The Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell. And I was on this journey of what is self-love? How do I love myself? I was going through some drama, shit hitting the fan in my life that was like, do I really love myself? Do I love my darkness? Do I love my journey? All of this. And he spoke about the 10,000 hours that, you know, a swimmer, a pianist, a violinist, they've had more, a surfer, they've had more than 10,000 hours to become that expert. And that was like this boom, aha moment of like, oh my God, myself and billions of other people are experts at negative self-talk. How we've created such a like connected looping pattern of this dialogue. And that was like, okay, if I want the opposite, then I need to collect 10,000 hours in self-love. And that was like this boom moment of like commitment of how do I collect those hours and being incredibly aware of that. So it's been, it's forever. It's a lifelong journey, but with that commitment has been amazing for me. And so an equation came from this moment. Self-love equals brain training. And how do we do this brain training? And it's attention, affection, and consistent action. The attention, for me, what is that attention? It's breath. The breath brings me to the present moment. Therefore, the attention is on me, energy in instead of energy out. The affection, affectionate thoughts, words, actions, deeds. Like, how am I breathing? How am I being present with myself? Like, what am I breathing in, and how am I being present with myself with affectionate kind, words, thoughts, actions, deeds. And then the consistent action that I need to do this consistently to collect this 10,000 hours. And that was like my motto. And so coming back to the lovely woman on the table, it comes into practice. It's ninja training. It's pussy kung fu. It is honoring her and leading with her and not letting her out of, this segues into, okay, yes, we have the pussy, we have the womb space, we have pleasure, sex, motherhood, but we also have our cycle. We also have our menstrual cycle and how we honor her, the archetypes within her. It's huge. It's huge. And so coming back to the masculine and feminine, you spoke of like, and I spoke of like the differences of how you can show up and work in business, and how the masculine model would be, you just go, you just drive. You don't shift in that month of how you work. You're just linear in that space. But here we have the feminine in this flowing space that goes through spring, autumn, winter, spring, summer, winter, autumn. And so right now I am sitting in my autumn. My leaves are falling. I am the enchantress. And what tends to happen, like the way that I exercise, the way that I eat, my sexual energy, my attention of like how I want to show up in my work, my creativity shifts. Even the way that I speak, I'll lose words, or I don't feel like I'm like on point with my vernacular as much as I am before I'm ovulating, So I have this space to honor too within that cycle.
Wow. It's such amazing self-awareness that you have, and honoring, again, the body awareness, the mind awareness. It's incredible. What you mentioned about the 10,000 hours and how we've conditioned ourselves in negative self-talk is we're experts in negative self-talk. That is just so true and so pervasive. Everybody, we're trained to speak to ourselves in ways that we would never speak to anybody else. And that's something that needs to change, and something that I've been working on, but I'm nowhere near 10,000 hours. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, that's when it was real. That was when it was like, oh shit, I gotta get to work. It wasn't like, oh, I love myself, I'm going to the spa, oh, I'm going to yoga class, or, oh, it's like, no, what am I doing when I'm walking to the bathroom? And so this has been amazing for me, and I've done this for a couple of years now. I do the 5-minute journal. I do, before I even look at my phone in the morning, I have to write my 5-minute journal, and before I go to bed, I write in the morning when I wake up, what I'm grateful for, 3 things that I'm grateful for, 3 things that I would love, what would I love today? And so now when I wake up, like I've trained myself to, when I get up, what am I grateful for? It's like Tim Ferriss, little 5-minute journal things. But now that I've totally, made it such a great habit, I notice in the morning
Totally.
how I gravitate to what am I grateful for, or if something is really has a hold on me and how that affects the day. And then I have to make that shift, and I have to go to work, and this is the work. This is the biggest work.
I couldn't agree more. This is probably the central focus of my work, both on myself and with my clients right now, is exactly what we're talking about. Setting yourself up for success every morning by consciously choosing where to focus your energy. And so, like you mentioned, so much of us are conditioned. We go to sleep with anxiety about money or jobs or relationships, and then we wake up, we're still in that anxiety. What's the first thing we do? We reach for our phone, we go to read emails or look at the news, and we're caught in this negativity, fear, anxiety loop, and we don't even realize it's happening. And so you need to have a pattern interrupt that consciously breaks it. And so I do the same thing every morning. Gratitude, journaling, meditation, some kind of movement practice, all before I pick up my phone. And it is a game changer, because then you are creating from a place of conscious choice. It's like, okay, what do I really want? How do I want my day to go? And where am I creating from? I think is an important question. Not necessarily what you're creating, is where you're creating from. Are you creating from that negativity, that fear, that anxiety, that stress, that striving? Or is it from the grounded wholeness, positive, embodied, focused energy? And those are completely different. And the amount of change that can create in your day, and then by extension, your life, is huge. Hey, are you feeling lost, anxious, frustrated by the state of the world? I get it. The world is a pretty messed up place right now. Maybe you're even distracting yourself from the pain with things like alcohol, social media, Netflix, gambling, shopping. I know, I did it for years. This is why I've made it my mission to support brave souls just like you in taking back creative control of your life, finding a deeper sense of purpose, and building a solid foundation of certainty, even in such uncertain times. This is exactly why I have created the Fuck Yes Club, a 6-week online journey that will begin on November 11th, 2020. I am looking for 15 to 20 badasses who are ready to supercharge their powers of manifestation as the conscious creators of their own reality. This program is for people who are tired of living in uncertainty and fear, sick of living up to somebody else's standards, fed up with not fulfilling their highest potential. This is for the people who are ready to tap into their infinite well of creative power and start creating the life they have always wanted. We are in the midst of a massive transition. Great change is upon us, and we're being called to grow and evolve in ways that we may have been avoiding. Is it your time? Are you ready? There are only 2 answers here, people. No and fuck yes. If you are in the fuck yes category, then immediately go to www.thefuckyesclub.com and sign up. Entry closes at 11:11 p.m. on November 11th. There's limited space, so head on over to www.thefuckyesclub.com right now for more information and to secure your spot. Now, back to the show. Amazing. So you are such a powerful and charismatic leader, and because of your willingness to be vulnerable, raw, authentic, and explore edges. I'm curious, how has that served you, and how has that gotten you into trouble?
Okay. Well, I can speak from it in real time, like in recent time, I guess, that just because I have a sense of openness or different perspectives in how I want to show up in my sensual space doesn't mean other people are open or willing to, not that they have to change their beliefs, but even to listen and to not honor, but just see the differences. So I'll put it into real context. We live in a small town, and, eventually you might connect with somebody that someone has connected with before. And it was, I won't give all the details or anything, but called somebody to, express, hey, I want to connect with this person. And that's when the trouble arose, because I feel one way and another person feels another way. And it's like, we can communicate about it, we can have our different perspectives, but I'm not going to try to change you to feel like, hey, you have to believe in this. But I do believe in this. And the belief was that it's okay if I'm going to connect with another person, even if, you were with that person before in the past, that there isn't this bros before hoes, chicks before dicks, high school mentality, but there is radical honesty, that yes, I can honor my girls. Yes, I can honor my dudes. Yes, I can do all of these things in a respectful way. And that is what I tried to do and show up the best that I could. And that I'm also new to it too, that these things aren't like happen every single day. And that I'm like, no, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I need to do. And I'm going to do it. I took myself to that uncomfortable conversation. And that, stirred up some trouble. But at the end of it all, it was like, brought so many points of discussion and inquiry within myself of what it is that I really want, and how do I, it brought up a great discussion for me, and also to not shame myself, like, oh, I'm not running with the pack, and I'm not like, with the pack, and I'm not like, following suit of the paradigm of relationships and this code, like the Silent Boys Club, or like this, like I'm having that conversation, and that's where trouble could arise. But I have to say, in this new phase of these chapters of the life, I said to the person, I said, let me have my drama, like my sex scandal or something. Like I've been such a good, like I'm like, let me have some drama. And it wasn't even drama. And it wasn't even. So that's, if I'm pulling for some trouble, that could be the trouble. And if that's, just about perspective. And here's one more thing about perspective is when I started to research for the second edition of the audiobook, it was infidelity, cheating, and the joy. What are the hot erotic stories within the infidelity and the cheating and the joy and that spark of aliveness? So what I did was I interviewed people that were the cheaters, that committed adultery and went outside of the relationship. And there was there a sense of joy? Was there a sense of like wonder and awe or aliveness, and the story and discussion upon that? And so those are like, it's not trouble, but it's stirring the pot. So I'm definitely, since I very started this, I was like, I stir the pot. So even in that little trouble that I had, it was stirring the pot for both of us, of like, oh, there were shifts that happened within her. There were shifts that happened within me. And in the masculine, I'm hoping that there was shifts within that space. And that's something I would love to talk about, is the masculine. And I know that you have been. Here's a question for you.
Okay.
With all the women, that you are witnessing, doing the work, going, looking at women's empowerment, how they want to be conscious leaders, and all that stuff. And there has been a journey of the masculine going into men's circles and finding their feminine and so forth. So here we are in this triangle of three, myself, another woman, and a man. And here we are, and the dialogue is with the feminine. And I'm like, you need to talk to the dude too. And I actually, had to speak and call out that person on, how they're showing up and speaking. But there was still no, I'm going to fight with the feminine and leave the man out of it. That doesn't sit well with me. And like, that is like, okay, well, what about the responsibility? Like, what about that discussion? And how is the shifting of women affecting the relationships of the masculine, and how they are showing up in their sexuality and relationships?
Yeah, no, it's such an important question. And, coming down to communication and conscious communication. But for me, where the line is between, standing in your truth, speaking your truth, standing in your power, and trusting that even when the other person is triggered. And because for me, I, had a pattern of people pleasing. I'm a recovering people pleaser. I'm so compassionate and empathetic and loving. I want everybody to be okay. So I avoid conflict, but often at my own expense, which is something I've had to work through. And so being able to have that discussion, you standing in your power, speaking to that other woman is, obviously triggered something in her, but it's not your responsibility to own her reaction. It's your responsibility to speak from a true, authentic place. And I think as long as you're coming from a good, high intention, best intention place, then you should be unshakable. And that's something I've definitely had to work through. But you're right. I think when it comes to feminine empowerment versus, we have to strike this balance. And this is where this dance comes into it, where the patriarchy, the male energy has been so embodied in oppression and dominance and power. And the feminine has been so suppressed and, ostracized, that this balance, that it needs to come back to a balance. And it's not through women acting like men, it's through women feeling empowered and to speak their truth with other women, but also with other men. So I totally agree that the man should be part of that conversation, even if it's triggering for him or pushing him past his boundary, because we need to challenge each other to rise into our higher selves, and not fall into these drama loops or old patterns or whatever they are that have been keeping us down as a species for millennia. We're very, to me, we're very young in our evolution as human beings, right? This cognitive awareness that we have, where it's like this on an evolutionary scale, this is very new. Having the prefrontal lobe and this consciousness, like, we're fucking it up big time because it's so new, and that's okay. It's like we're spiritual children is really what it comes down to, right? But it's up to us to make that next step into spiritual adolescence, moving towards spiritual adulthood. And this is to me what the work is. It's like, okay, taking responsibility, owning your shit, working on the negative self-talk like we talked about earlier, and then conscious communication. Like, I'm going to speak my truth even if it triggers you, but then I'm also going to listen to you speak your truth, and hopefully we can seek, rather than being in competition with each other, we can seek a higher truth that neither of us may have been able to see otherwise. Does that make sense? And that we're seeing so much of this in the world right now, this polarization of left versus right, man versus woman, black versus white, Democrat. It's all polarization. It's like this side is entrenched in its position, sure of itself that it's right, and so is the other side. And there's no middle ground, where in reality, it's like, okay, one side has some truth and some noise, and so does the other side. There's some truth and some noise. And so the solution is a higher consciousness. Like Einstein said, you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. We have to raise to a higher consciousness. So this is true of relationships. It's true of politics. It's true of business. It's everything. And so this is where I've really been focused. How can I show up in that situation at the highest level in order to not be triggered down into my bullshit and my pain, my fear, whatever it is, and then invite the other person to meet me at that level. And then that's the only place that we can synthesize into higher truth. When we're both at a whole place coming from our highest power, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, but that was a bit of a dialogue.
Well, as I said, like, I'm a very visual person. So when you're speaking, I see, okay, there's like this high and then there's this low, but then we both have to come in the space of this middle path. And for me, this middle path, with the masculine and feminine, is radical honesty. So if I'm in the middle and this gentleman here and then the other woman was here, if we go before I wasn't even involved in this situation, if radical honesty was the the sparkly good juju upon this here, there wouldn't have been any conflict from that space and outward, because they would both been radically honest with each other. Hi, I am in this mental hold of a way a relationship should be. When two people meet and we connect sexually, this is the pattern and this is the flow of what it should be and how I react. Hi, I am the masculine, and I am not listening to the true nature of my being, and I am going to play this role of being disconnected when it's not intimate, like, oh, this is my girlfriend. Like, how do I treat a woman as a lover when she's not my girlfriend? And how do I treat her when she is my girlfriend? And the fact that when I have a girlfriend, maybe I am not fully there because I'm not honoring the fact that I am a non-monogamous individual. And even the feminine here is not honoring the fact that maybe I'm not even maybe I'm a serial monogamist holding on to the Disney fantasy. And here I am as well, still part of that Disney fantasy, but I'm not honoring it. So everybody that's coming into my space, I'm hurting them, consistently. And here comes in the third party that is the radical honesty. And that's like, I can see you are so not monogamous, but you are not honoring that within you. And then this individual over here had to have that pain and hurt to shake out of the being stuck on the Disney fantasy. That is not, and then, whoa, I was, I call it, dickstracted. I was dickstracted.
Oh my God. I've never heard that before. That's awesome.
I was totally distracted because I'm so looped into the assumptions of what is going to happen. And that's when you lose yourself, or you're just held into this loop. And then here's somebody that's like, oh, I know what I want, but I'm going to keep you and I'm push you here, and you're only going to come this far. Those two non-truths that are not being spoken are the conflict, are the suffering. And when I think about it, like, okay, I can see it on the microcosm, but then I think about it on everything that's happening in the world. What if radical honesty was the answer? Like, I think about even the triggers and the sensations that I felt with being in here in a community that's Costa Rican, and then there's a large expat white community, me being a woman of color that doesn't fit on either spectrum of the financial, scale. I went a couple of weeks not even being able to speak to people that appear to have white skin. That friends that I had, I could not even be in space with that. So having that pause to the side, where would that radical honesty be the healing, or the middle path being that healing? And then I think about politics. Is radical honesty that joining forces of the masculine and feminine? Like, I don't know how to word it. But is that the practice? Is that the practice on the microcosm that will affect the macrocosm? If all of this stuff in the structure of government and money and finance, we don't feel like it's transparent. There's a lot of non-trust and a lack of truth of how is a company, you know what I'm talking about, right? Is a company is supporting? Where is this makeup coming from? Oh, this makeup has this, what is it called? The sparkle in it. Oh, it's being mined from child workers, slaves, and I forget the mica. Anyways, we're shrouded in illusion and delusion and ill truths. So
totally.
Anywho, I'm a really big advocate on radical honesty, which can be really difficult sometimes, and also radical self-love and pleasure. And
I think you're bang on. Radical honesty at the micro level with trust and self-love. That's how we change the macrocosm. on an individual level, if we can embody our truth with the highest intention, then that's how we show up in the world more powerfully and make changes at scale. And that's why the work you're doing is so powerful. And that's why I'm so passionate about the work I do, is being an example of that, and not in a preachy way, but, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about that triangle you were in, is how do you, embody that power, embody that radical authenticity, and invite other people into it without them being so triggered that they recoil. That's really what the challenge is.
I feel that we're still working through it because, like you said, I don't have control over one's reactions. And I have to, my habit is wanting to fix it and wanting to be a good girl and to, how can we make this better? And at that moment, I had to realize I didn't give a fuck, and I had to honor that. Whatever you're going to say, however you're going to put me down or make me feel bad or guilt me, I had to look really deeply in myself of like my desires, what I wanted. And I have to say, no, this is what I want. And that was really lovely for myself because it wasn't like, oh, I'm hurting you. It was like, no, you had nothing to do with it. This is my desire and my need and what I would like. And I showed up in the, if it was a different scenario, yeah, for sure. If they were, if there was boyfriend and girlfriend and they were together and I'm coming in and I'm like, I don't care about that. It's like, maybe
that's totally different.
That's totally different. And if I am in that situation and I'm like, I do want your man, then I still would have to have that conversation. It's like, doesn't mean that you cannot. It means that you will have to practice that radical honesty. So I feel that I had to give myself that radical honesty of like, no, doesn't bother me. And that I cannot have everybody like me. And I think that that's something that I'm still working on, that not everybody's going to like me. And, and
it hurts. It hurts when somebody doesn't like you or they're triggered by you. It definitely hurts for me anyway. Wow, this is so awesome, Natrishka. I could just speak to you all day long, but I want to be aware of your time. Maybe I'll just ask you one or two more questions.
Okay.
Let's just transition into your creativity, because I've witnessed another part of you evolve that has just been so magnificent, is your musicality and your voice and using your voice and playing music, and how that's become part of your radical self-expression. It's so exciting.
Yes.
How would you describe your current relationship with that, with your creativity on that level?
I am not honoring that power that exists there, and that's where I'm sitting on my edge of creativity of like, no, you need to continue on. Like today I said, I'm building a garden bed, like finishing the third garden bed, and I have a beat someone sent me, and I'm like, I need to write to this beat because I'm a rock star farmer. That's who I want to be when I grow up. I've been in the music space for quite, it's been a deep love and passion for myself. And I have to go all in. And you've shared that with me. Like, I've witnessed you going all in, and I have to go all in on my music and show up in that space. So that's exactly where I am. But one thing that I am sharing that I actually wanted to share with you and your community, and I was thinking maybe we can choose a date. I was thinking October 30th, before Halloween at 1 p.m. Nosara time. So I have this, I teach orgasmic breathwork, but I teach it in a way that I call it the Orgasmic Glee Club, because when I do work with clients, we also use like art and sound in our modalities for therapy. And the sacral chakra and the throat chakra are both orifices. Even if you look at the vocal cords and the pelvic floor, they have a huge connection, and our orgasm is connected to that space too, and speaking our truth. So in the Orgasmic Glee Club, before we go into this breath work, we sing. We warm up.
Awesome.
We sing together, and I do mashups of familiar music with mantra. So I have Diana Ross and Om Tara Tutare. I have Shakira and the seed sounds of the chakras. I have Tracy Chapman and the Ho'oponopono prayer. And
amazing.
I would love to offer maybe a special, rate for this crew, like Patrick Cook's crew.
Yes.
Let's do a glee club and breathwork session. And I just love it. So if you're into that
sounds incredible. I love it. Yes, absolutely.
So that we can, and I think it's a powerful time because there's a full moon on the 31st, and it's Halloween. People are going to be busy. So the day before, if that feels like a good day, it could be, or we can plan it for another time. That'd be
awesome.
Great. But yes, my music space, how I want to show up in my creative space is just like how I showed up with Conscious Erotica. It's entertainment and education combined. And I feel that that's why being a rock star farmer is like my ultimate goal in life, because it's education and entertainment. And how do I show up? I've been rapping a lot. I've been writing rhymes, freestyling, playing on the piano a little bit. I have your microphone and your amp here, and
awesome.
I practice capoeira, and we sing and we play instruments. So it's something in my life that I want to highlight more, and I want that to be at the forefront. Like, it's like, this is what I do. And I just so happen to have these classes, courses, or experiences that we can do, but at the foreground. Oh, who's Natrishka? Oh, she's a rock star farmer.
I love it. So, do you feel called to share something right now? Is there anything present for you that you'd like to share?
In music?
Yeah, like a little freestyle or a song or anything?
Okay, here we go. I'm going to do one of the mashups. So you can choose Shakira, Tracy Chapman, or Diana Ross.
Ooh, Diana Ross for sure.
Okay. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. If you can, reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. If you can. Om, Om Tara Tutare, Ture Soha. 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 Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. If you can.
Oh my God, that was so awesome. I love the mashup.
So that's the mashup that we would sing in union, and I just want to express why. Because, okay, reach out and touch someone's hand. So, Om Tara Tutare, green Tara, what I was taught from a young age is that she walks you over from samsara to nirvana, hand in hand, not leaving one behind, So, and it just kind of came from that space, and it's kind of just like a loop of, like, when you sing soul music and then mantra. Yeah. So.
Yes. Beautiful. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I have one final question for you, and then we'll wrap up. If you were to take all of your experiences, all of your knowledge and wisdom gained from and distill them down into one message, one sentence, what would it be?
Taking the time to create a relationship with your breath. Taking the time to, that's simple as that. Taking the time to create a relationship with your breath through all the experiences of your human existence. just noticing what happens to the breath when I'm in this phase, when I'm in this phase, when I'm like this, I'm like that. I feel that can be a great gateway to you, the present moment of feeling right here, right now. I know it sounds so simple, but my mom would be like, take a breath, feel your breath. I'm like, rah, 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 whatever, mom. and, you know, going through all the practices and schooling and experiencing, you know, as a restorative yoga teacher, even when I'm like, fuck that shit. It's like, what is it? It is that breath that brings you back to that present moment. And that present moment is the creator, and then is that choice of how you want to step forward. Yeah.
Natrishka, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Do you want to tell people where they can find you online and inquire about your programs and your offerings?
Yes. So you can check me out on Instagram, Natrishka on Instagram, or Natrishka on Facebook. We also have pussychurch.ca. So this is a weekly devotion where we honor and praise the pussy. We reconnect with our pussy through these amazing devotions. And we have a cycle of women that go through, and we have amazing community as well that wants to move from social media into our own community and support in different online ways, which I feel is beautiful. ConsciousErotica.bandcamp.com. You can listen and purchase the audiobook that Patrick recorded and supported me through, and I'm really thankful for that experience. And reach out whenever you post this, like if you want to be a part of the Orgasmic Glee Club and you're into that, like I really want to make that happen. And so let's do it.
Yes, we'll post links. I'll share all those links in the show notes so people can know about the Glee Club. That sounds amazing. I'd love to do it.
Yeah.
Natrishka, you rock. Thank you so much for your time today. Have a fabulous day.
Ciao.
Ciao. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. And if you enjoyed the show, please do subscribe, rate, and review. For more information and show notes, head on over to being-podcast.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, live your being.